Good morning, Karen. I know it's evening where you are. I'm
Yes, it's just about 5:35. It's not too late.
not
We're on daylight savings time at last, so that's nice actually.
good. Yeah. Well, I'm interviewing women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s who essentially have never retired. So thank you for agreeing to be interviewed.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure, Deb.
So to start, at what age did you first start working?
Oh golly, I started working really young. My first, job was at 17, and I worked, apart from I did lots of babysitting from about 11. So I was really rarely without, earning some money. So I started working. My first job was with the Hartford Insurance Company in San Francisco, and it was pretty tedious. I was a coder, it was the early computing. I would have to reduce information from policies to codes for computer processing. This was back in the early 60s.
I had no idea.
Sorry?
I had no idea you were involved with computers at that early.
Oh, yeah, well, I did that off and on, but that was because I was quite good at math, so that was, taken up. It wasn't anything particularly sophisticated about it, but that was my first job, yeah.
Well, and your first degree was in math, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
From Berkeley?
That's right, yeah. I mean, it's funny, though, I ended up with sort of equal credits virtually equal credits in English, because that was my other favorite subject. I think probably like a lot of women of my age, you kind of have a vague idea about what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really. I majored in math because I was good at it, and because it seemed kind of cool.
Right.
To be good at something and be a girl.
Yeah.
At that time.
Mm-hmm. The STEM
But I hadn't
subjects.
really thought about a career.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just had a lot of experiences. That was kind of my approach at that stage of my life. I was quite politically motivated, so I was kind of interested in the counterculture, and I wasn't really ready to have a job, of the serious sort, although I did support myself. I don't know, it was almost an obsession. I didn't really want to be tied. So I did teaching, and then out of sort of summer season, one of my favorite jobs was working for, this is in New York now, in a silk screen, for a guy who had a silk screen company down in, it was basically the edge of Greenwich Village, between where I lived on the Lower East Side and Greenwich Village. And he was just really nice, and he had a kind of artistic notion of doing silk screening, so he did interesting posters and things, and it was the literal silk screening. I just liked him a great deal. I learned a great deal from him because he was a very good manager. He was very understanding of what motivated people. So I still hold him dear, and that was the most fun job I had, because it was very intense and busy, and it was fun. I should tell you, for 18 years I worked at Yale as a researcher.
And that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, how many years you were at Yale. So
I was there for 18 years, and I worked up from being a research assistant in developmental psychology to being a research associate, which is usually only occupied by PhDs. So without a PhD, I worked my way up through the ranks and ran big research projects. So that's what happened at Yale.
And I would imagine as you moved up the ranks at Yale, it must have been almost exhilarating.
Well, it was reading as long as my interest. What was interesting, it was more interesting when I was more naive. In other words, I was just delighted to be learning, and to be, when you're working, and in some ways that makes often more sense than when you're studying because you're really in it. And I learned a great deal. I worked on a lot of people's PhDs, for example, because that's one of the jobs of a research person in these big, there'd be a professor with big project grants, and I worked for two major people, and really these are killer people, Deb. So there was it was a double thing. It was doing interesting work and seeing megalomania in action. When I came to London, I had collaborated in research with the Institute of Psychiatry, which was child and adolescent, the Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Unit, which was a medical research council funded program. What I realized, I'd already realized at Yale, was I was outgrowing paradigms. The paradigms were, you pretty much, in big name research, and this is partly the function of being at these big institutions, it's all about making your name for the professors. So it's all about them getting their tenure, and then staying very big. That's kind of what they're prevailing. And really, since I wasn't ambitious in a traditional way, there was nothing in it for me.
How long have you been self-employed now?
It'll be 23 years.
My goodness.
Or 22. I mean, I continued to work for the Richmond Fellowship beyond, after I moved. But it'll be 23 years since we moved to Bath. And I was going back to the Richmond Fellowship. So in a way, it's probably more like 22 rather than 23. But in a sense, I was doing the transition of leaving the Richmond Fellowship and working on my PhD and beginning some independent projects. So, yeah. I mean, I really had to define my mission, and I've come up with, and I use this a lot. I realized that throughout my career, my interests were, and this really goes right back to my childhood, were to help people to understand the dysfunctional aspects. I mean, to overcome, help people to overcome the individual, couple, family, organizational, and ultimately societal dysfunction that keeps people from being healthy and developing in healthy ways. So and also contributing healthily. Mm-hmm. So that's and it's always, I realize, and I have another colleague who says the same thing, that really throughout my career that's been my obsession. How can I help people do it in a healthier way, in a way that's kind even, mm-hmm. but that's generative, that helps people to see each other and appreciate each other and, make room on the planet for each other. It's just that, and it is possible. I know it is, because I proved to be quite a good leader, and those were wonderful experiences, to lead several departments within the Richmond Fellowship, but, all through my career I was leading projects, and I just had a knack for being able to appreciate other people's points of view, and not assuming that I was the only person on the planet, which is got to be, a given, I think, for an effective leader, is to really give a damn. My guide is that as long as people keep asking me, I certainly by no means have to say yes to things I don't want to do, and I don't. I also am fortunate to be asked to do things I love doing, and so consequently, as long as people are asking me, and as long as I keep getting very positive feedback, I shall continue.